You're listening to the Hella Well with Danielle show, a podcast taking women of color on a journey exploring all things wellness and travel related. We're all about showing you how to put on your oxygen mask first and creating lasting self-care habits that will free you to travel the world and live the life you truly desire, and not one you have to fake loving. I'm your host, Danielle Washington. Now let's buckle up and start this journey. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Hella Well with Danielle podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Washington, and it's September. I can't believe we're here in September already, but it's September. And what does September mean? It's Virgo season. Of course, I'm excited because, of course, I'm a Virgo. I'm excited. My birthday is actually literally a week from yesterday. So my birthday is September 11th. I don't know why I tell people my birthday, but if you want to send me a birthday gift, I ain't too proud to say anything about it. But when I think of Virgos, you can't think of a Virgo without thinking about the queen bee, Beyonce herself. Love her or hate her, she is an icon of our generation. And she is the quintessential Virgo. She is driven. She, even is very self-critical and about her art and what she's doing. And she's detail-oriented. I love everything about her. When I think of Beyonce, I think about how her music has shaped my own life, and think about like Lemonade was a game changer for me. Like Lemonade, if I did think about the most influential album of my lifetime, it would definitely be Lemonade. Lemonade was an ode to Black women. She taught us to be human. She taught us it's okay not to be okay, about forgiveness, inner strength, and just Black love, self-acceptance, and how she turned her heartache, which was a real situation, into helping move a culture and move us forward as an ethnicity. So I couldn't think of anything better to do as she celebrates her 40th birthday. She had a recent article in Bazaar magazine, and she opened up about self-care. So I wanted to do what would Beyonce do self-care edition. And let's be real, Beyonce's been leaving us cookies throughout her entire career. She's taught us, she had her documentary, Life is But a Dream. In her songs, Bootylicious, she talked about, not being a sample size. So, okay, I'm going to accept that I'm bootylicious. Lemonade, which every song on there is a example of empowerment and getting through something, and just a life lesson through songs like Bigger and so many more songs. And in her interviews, not only just the Bazaar interview, but she's given us cookies left and right about what she would do and how she would do it. So I wanted to give a couple of my things I've taken away from Beyonce of in terms of self-care, what would Beyonce do? So one thing I love about Beyonce is that she recognizes that self-reflection is a part of the self-care journey. She talks about in the Bazaar article about when she was a young girl, being shy taught her to be empathetic and gave her the ability to connect with others and enjoy the silence. In her 30s, she talks about, trying to heal generation trauma and really reflecting on her life. Lemonade was written and produced when she was in her 30s, where, again, she taught us through Lemonade how she went through one of probably the hardest times in her life, as she dealt with issues with her father and all these different things, and reflecting on that to get to a better place. And it's within those reflections that we're able to look at our past and not be like, oh, dang, I'm wishing of those time frames, but looking at our past and looking at our present and how can I learn from these things to better myself? And that's one thing I love about how she uses self-reflection and recognizes that it is a critical and vital part of her self-care journey. And it's been very important to me to be able to reflect back on where I've been and how I'm moving forward, and even where I am now. I love Facebook memories because it tells you kind of where you were a year ago. And 2 years ago, I saw this post that says, 2 years ago, have you ever been in a moment where, you feel like life is changing in front of you on a path that you weren't expecting? And I can now look back 2 years from now and to where I am today, and I'm like, oh my God, in 2 years, I wrote a book. In 2 years, I became a certified Reiki master and teacher. I, broke up with relationships that were really important to me, but realizing at now and at that time that they were toxic. And not even toxic. I shouldn't say they were toxic. They just didn't serve me anymore. It had nothing to do with the people that, I'm not saying any of those people were toxic or I was toxic part of the relationship. We weren't serving each other, and it wasn't something that was good for me, and it wasn't healthy for me, and creating new habits and creating boundaries. But it was through those reflections and through some of those memories that I'm able to recognize how I'm doing better and also how I can continue my self-care journey. And so I love that about Beyonce. The other thing I love about her, and if you pay attention again with songs like Bootylicious and just what she says in her interviews, is self-care isn't just about your body. No, we're taught, and she says this in one of the articles, a lot of us buy into this misconception that self-care is about, exercising and being overly, obsessed with, our bodies. And it's real easy. I mean, you see 50 million magazines that tell you, how to lose this much weight, how to get, that summer body ready, and, diets and all these different fads and detox. And we are obsessed with our bodies and how it looks. And that's because we're taught and we're conditioned. And I love that she teaches us through her actions and through her words that self-care isn't just about the body. And mental health is just as important. Focusing on your peace of mind, how much you smile, what you're feeding your mind. Are you focusing in, and Beyonce talks about, she's focusing in on how she's feeding her mind and her body. And that's, and a lot of times we don't think about what we're feeding our minds, what you're watching, what you're listening to, the people around you. That all affects your mental health. But if you're not paying attention to that and you're only focused on the external side, the mental side, and you're forgetting the mental side, that's a huge misstep in your self-care and making sure that you are living the best life that you can truly live. And I get it. It's not always easy. Like Beyonce, like me, we haven't always put our self-care first. And one of the things I love also she does is she's focusing on putting her oxygen mask on first. I always say this, that putting our oxygen mask on first is one of the best forms of self-love. We are so conditioned as women to put everyone else first. I mean, we see it in our parents, and Beyonce talks about that. She grew up seeing her parents as superheroes, as, being able to take on anything. And we see that. We see it through TV. We see it through our own friends and family and our relatives. It's like, especially being a woman of black or brown woman, that we're taught through actions that we're just supposed to tough it up. Supposed to get through it, because that's the strong black woman. That's what we do. That's what our ancestors, that's what our parents have done. That's what our grandmothers did. That's what, our ancestors did during slavery. We toughed it up and we made it through, and we struggled through, and we survived. And we're supposed to put everyone else before ourselves, because that's what love is. And that's how you show your love. That's what we're supposed to do. That's just how we're supposed to be as Black women. We're supposed to focus in on taking care of everyone but ourselves. But nah, that's not true. That's the lie we've been taught. That's the generational curses of passed down from generation to generation of of generation trauma that we've been taught. But we can break those curses. We can break those ties to those ties of trauma that have been passed down from generation to generation in our DNA, that we're taught to just tough it out. And what Beyonce says in this recent article is that I'm no longer one of those women. I'm no longer one of those people who just toughens it out and puts everyone else before herself and puts her self-care last on the list of priorities. She talks about having a difficult pregnancy taught her that. And you don't have to have a difficult pregnancy or a difficult situation to realize that you matter. Your self-care matters. And that you can't fully pour into other people without pouring into yourself first. And it's hard to give from an empty cup. And you can have a cup of water or whatever, be thirsty in a desert, and if that cup is fully empty, Let me help you out. You about to die in the desert. And that's your energy. When you continuously pour out so much of you to the point where you're on empty and then you try to give to yourself, there's nothing to give. And that's why you need to put your oxygen mask on first. And break those curses of trauma that we've been taught. And I love that she talks about taking a full year to focus in on her health. I didn't take a full year, but I took months. In 2019, I literally got offline and ghosted the world. Not even got offline. I got off email. I got off phones. If you weren't my parents or someone that was really close to me, you probably didn't know where the heck I was because I literally disconnected to heal. And I love that she says she took a full year, a full freaking 12 months to focus in on her health and well-being and allow herself to put her oxygen mask on first. And we think as, basic people, not saying we're basic, but we're not celebrities. We're not Beyonce living in the pressures that she has for, a company that, employs several people, the music and people who depend on her for inspiration. But we think as ourselves, as, basic everyday girls, that we can't do it. But if Beyonce could take a full year and she's at her level of what she's doing and employing all these different people to focus in on her health, why can't we take a month, a week, just to focus in on our health? And so I encourage you to, if you learn nothing else from Beyonce, is to recognize that you matter. Putting on your oxygen mask first is not just, maybe that's nice, optional. It is vital to your well-being. And don't be one of those people. Say that I am no longer, like Beyonce, one of those people who just toughens it out and focuses on taking care of everyone else but yourself. You are worthy. Just like Beyonce recognizes that she is worthy of breaking those curses and taking care of herself. The other thing I love is she talks about listening to your body. And I do talk about this often. And it was one of the things that I think really changed how I showed up as a person, is listening to your body. Your body talks to you. Your body will tell you everything you need to heal, to be better, to thrive. And what Beyonce taught me through her words and through her actions is that she had to learn to listen to her body. And that was the same way for me. Like my body, like your body, is talking to you all the time, but we're not listening. We're not hearing what our body says. When your body has that ache, it's not saying, oh yeah, just, continue doing what you're doing. Your body feels exhausted. It's not to push through because you're going to be okay. Your body's saying, hey, sis, I'm going to need you to take a break. Hey, sis, there's some kind of emotional thing that I'm showing you through some physical ailments in your body that you need to address. Your body is teaching you what you need to heal, what you need to thrive. But instead we focus in on these diets and disregarding our body. Our body tells us, like, I don't really like this. And I'm telling you, I don't like this diet you're putting us on, but you're not listening because you're so obsessed with fitting into what is beauty, what society is telling you, how you should live your life. And like focusing on those subtle signs that our body is giving us is putting the power back in your hands to listen to your body, how you can survive and how you can thrive. Like when I was trying to do this detox recently, and I was like, okay, this is good. I'm going to detox. I'm not going to just do a cleanse. I'm going to do this detox and it's going to be great for my body. And my body was showing me signs like, nah, sis, this ain't good. Like it's good for me to, every now and then to cleanse. But what you're trying to do right now, we ain't about this life. This isn't making me feel good, which is making you physically and mentally not good. And when I was able to listen to the signs of what my body was telling me and break the cycles of poor health and neglect, that's when I started feeling healthier. That's when I started having more energy. That's when I started loving myself more. And Beyonce talks about that. And she talks about her struggles of wanting to diet and, being obsessed with all these different things. And when she was able to listen to the signs and learn to listen to her body, learning to listen to your body and breaking the cycles, that was a huge part of her self-care. And another thing she talks about is, in hard times, because like Beyonce, and she showed us in Lemonade, she's gone through hard times. She's had to deal with issues with her husband. She's had to deal with issues with what people want her to be and who they think she should be, and wanting to be a part of, wanting more access to her life. In hard times and self-doubt, and being a Virgo, there's going to be self-doubt because we're so hard on ourselves and we got to do these things. And she talks about, in her 20s, like she was in this, focusing on her career, and it wasn't just about being intentional, but it was also about, having the drive behind that. There's going to be hard times. There's going to be self-doubt. There's going to be like, am I good enough to get through this? Like, how am I going to get through this? Am I ready for this? She talks about jumping out on faith. And like, there was an article where she talked about saying, I just have to say to myself, jump, because I know I'm going to land in the water and I'm going to be able to swim back to the boat. Just jump and have trust in yourself. And I think that's so huge, to just knowing that you can jump and know that you'll end up in the water and that you have the ability to swim back to the boat. You have the ability to swim back if you trust yourself. And tell your fears that they're not allowed to be where you're headed. I love that line of saying that she tells her fears that they are not allowed to be where she is headed. And think about that. We let our fears play such a huge role in how we show up in the world, who we are. Like even me right now doing this podcast. I had the dream of doing this podcast for a very long time, but I let my fears get in the way. I let my fears get to where I wanted to be before I even got to there. But when you tell your fears, you're not allowed to be there. That allows you to jump out on faith. That allows you to be your own cheerleader. And she is her own cheerleader. And she shows us that, we all have this confidence in us to take chances and bet on ourselves. You just got to jump and know that you're going to land and that you've gone through this. She talks about in moments of vulnerability, she reminds herself how strong she is and that she's built for this. We are all built for whatever we're meant to get through, because that's why we're here. We were never given anything that we cannot handle. But when you let your fears get to where you're trying to go and be in your future before you even get there, you're not going to get there. So allowing yourself to trust that you have everything within you. You are strong. You are worthy. You are built for this. God, source, universe, whatever you believe in, has your back. But you have to believe in it. It's a choice. You have to believe that you are meant to do amazing things in this life. You are meant to be a queen. You are not meant to just struggle and just get by and tough it out and take care of everyone but you. You were meant to put your oxygen mask on first. You are meant to listen to your body. You are meant to jump out on faith and be your own cheerleader and know that you have everything within you to do amazing shit. And then Beyonce has taught us that. If you get nothing else from her, look at how she has gone through so many different things and came out on top. She's come out on top because she trusted in herself. She allowed herself to recognize that I am built for this. I am strong. And I can get through these things. And so I love that about her. The other thing I love about her, and people probably say bad things about her in this situation, is that she's intentional about her boundaries. Like she's like, if anyone has ever been mad intentional about her boundaries, I think of Beyonce and Prince as people who've taught us to be intentional about your boundaries. You ain't got to show everything. We buy into this warped world of social media of like, we always have to show what we're doing, like what we're eating, who we're hanging out with. And we're taught that through social media that there's a certain way we're supposed to be. Like we have these it girls on TikTok showing us this is how self-care is supposed to be. This is how you're supposed to live. And the shoulds, we should all of ourselves. And Beyonce has fought hella hard to protect her privacy and her sanity because she realizes that really is being able to protect your sanity and privacy is a huge part of the quality of her life. And that quality of her life, it depends on protecting her sanity and her privacy. And I think that's something that we can learn in our self-care, being able to hold something back. Like when I used to travel, I used to feel like, especially having a travel business, that I had to show every aspect of my trip, so much to the point where I would come back home and I'm like, A, I'm exhausted. B, I don't really feel like I was a part of that trip because I was so busy focusing in on showing everyone else that what I was doing and all these amazing things that I was doing on my trip that I wasn't a part of actually experiencing it. I wasn't allowing myself those self-care healing moments that I love to take when traveling because I was like, I needed to show. And so being able to hold back parts of your life for you and just your loved ones, setting those boundaries, and that you don't have to share it all. And that you don't have to also buy into this thing of, we have to show everything and give everyone access because that's what everyone else is doing. Beyonce shows that we don't have to do what everyone else is doing. We can set and be intentional about our boundaries. We can learn to live outside the box of social media and what others believe and actually start tapping into what you believe, what's right for you. And when you tap into that and you set those boundaries and you are really intentional about who's in your circle, that's some power. Because there's power in community. And Beyonce talks about there's power in community. She's very intentional about who is in her circle. And making sure, is it a circle or is it a cage? The people around you, are they building a circle of trust and love and empowerment? Or are the people around you building a cage? It's really important. And she shows us that it's important to surround yourself with people who you can grow with, who you can learn from, and vice versa. It's not just about a give or take. It's about both. It's giving and receiving in those communities. And it's about being intentional about setting those boundaries and knowing who you're hanging out with really matters and really paying attention to that community. And so, so we talked about a couple different things about, the mindset. We talked about listening to your body. Some of the things, and she kind of literally points out like, these are the things she's doing in her self-care. And so I just kind of wanted to talk about those things as well. So some of the things that self-care activities that Beyonce is doing that you can do yourself is, she's really gotten into homeopathic medicine. She pays attention to what she's eating and she finds that that's important. She's meditating. You look at Lemonade, she's looking at her spirituality. You see so many signs of the Yoruba religions through her work and what she's doing and showing that her spirituality matters to her. And I think that's important. I think spirituality is a huge part, whatever you believe, even if it's not in, no, I'm just going to say it, whatever you believe, there's a huge part of that plays into your self-care. She uses meditation. She does visualization. She talks about using breath work. And then even during the pandemic, she talks about, practicing positive rituals, drawing from, past generations and putting her own spin on it. And I love that there's so many different things that you could do in self-care and you can read about different things. People talk about what they do. Just because someone talks about eating healthy, being vegan, or, doing affirmations, meditating, doesn't mean you have to do it exactly the way they've done it. And Beyonce's shown that she putting your own spin on it, making it your own, is what really is self-care. Self-care, I say it all the time, is like a pair of custom jeans. Make it your own. And when you make it your own and you don't just feel like I have to stay in the box and follow exactly what Becky said to do or what Beyonce said to do, and I make it my own, you can take things and aspirations and inspiration from what Beyonce is doing for her self-care and make it your own. And that's what is really empowering, making these self-care activities and what works for you, taking, the acupuncture, because she's done acupuncture well. Maybe acupuncture is not your thing. Maybe meditation is not your thing, but breath work is my thing. And maybe taking stuff from past generations and creating positive rituals, I can add that in. And, maybe, going vegan is not for me, but maybe eating healthier 3 times a week versus, eating crap for 7 days of the week, making your own self-care routines. And making it your own is huge. And I love how she has taken her own spin on, these self-care activities and made it her own. Beyonce teaches us that it's okay to be human. It's okay to be not okay. She teaches us that, and I love this spotter, is that, she said in the, it was the Elle article or Teen Vogue, that giving zero fucks is liberating, because it is liberating. Giving zero fucks is liberating place to be. Learning to value yourself beyond your physical appearance. And she talks about, really being able to understand who she was and that she was more than enough, no matter what she, her stage life and what's going on, that she is enough. And that's so important. And I think that if anything we learn from her is learning that we are enough exactly how we are. She talks about, I just want to read what it says because I'm like, I will botch this. She says, I spent so many years trying to better myself and improve whatever I've done that I'm at a point where I no longer need to compete with myself. I'm going to repeat that. She says she's no longer at a place where she needs to compete with herself. Now, it's not even about competing with other people's, competing with herself. I have no interest in searching backwards. The past is the past. I feel many aspects of many aspects of that younger, less evolved Beyonce could never fuck with the woman I am today. I look back at where I am today, and I hope that you look back at where you are today from where you were yesterday, where you were, a month ago, where you were a year ago, 5 years ago. And don't look back and say, those were the good days, and look backwards to try to get back to where those days were, but recognize that where you are now, the lessons you are today, to be here, be now, that you've evolved to someone that is amazing. You've evolved into someone who is doing some epic shit. And that you don't have to look backwards. You don't have to compete with yourself. You don't have to compete with other people. And then accepting that who you are and being your own cheerleader and just jump. Jump out on faith and know that you have everything within you to be an amazing woman and to thrive. So I wanted to end this episode on, as she celebrates her 40th birthday, in the article, Beyonce talks about, what's next? Like, what's next for this next decade? And basically, she's giving her intentions. And I want us to focus and take some of these intentions and, again, make it your own. Put your own spin on it. So what she says for, this next decade and what she's hoping for and what she's looking forward to, she says, I wish, I want to feel free. I want to I want my 40s to be fun and full of freedom. The same freedom she has on stage. And I love that. She wants to celebrate joy, giving and receiving love. She wants to show that, you can have fun and have purpose. You can be respectful and speak your mind. She's also focusing in on continuing to work on dismantling the systematic imbalances. And that's huge important to me. If you didn't listen to our podcast about, decolonizing wellness that I had a couple of weeks ago with Dahlia Kinsey. It's time for us to dismantle the systematic imbalances, and it takes each and every one of us to play a role in decolonizing wellness, decolonizing these imbalances that have happened throughout these generations, and be able to know that you can break rules. You don't have to be 40 to start breaking rules. You don't have to become this amazing superstar that Beyonce has become to start living a better life, to reflect on where you've been and where you want to be. You don't have to be Beyonce to start setting boundaries, to accept that you're human, to listen to your body. You can be you now. It is your time. It's a choice. I say it all the time. Self-care is a choice. And Beyonce has chosen to focus in on her self-care. She took a full year. She's shown that throughout her life, she is getting better and better and better of recognizing and honoring that her self-care matters. That putting her oxygen mask on first matters. And her wish is to continue to do everything everyone thinks she can't do. And if that's not a lesson for you, to continue to do everything that not only other people think you can't do, but the things that you think you can't do. Your mind is the only limit to what you can achieve in life. The choices you make are the only limits that are what you can achieve in thriving in life. And if you learn nothing from Beyonce, she is showing us that we can have it all. And we can continue evolving from where we are today, because self-care, again, is a continuous journey. So I love you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed today. And I hope that you learned a little bit about self-care from Beyonce. And again, whether you love her or hate her, she has taught us so much of how to be a better person and how to give back to the world. And so I love Beyonce, and I never thought there was a point in time where I didn't think I was a huge Beyonce fan until I started really paying attention to the cookies and the breadcrumbs that she was leaving. And I honor and love her. I love that she has taught me to be proud to be a Black woman, to break generational curses, and know that it is okay to not be okay, and that I'm human. And all I have to do is jump out on faith and tell my fear that they're not headed where I'm going. Then I'm going somewhere that I couldn't imagine 5 years ago, because I hadn't put in the self-care and the actions to take care of myself. And nowadays, I know that I am worthy of everything that I desire because I exist, because I breathe. And I want the same thing for you. So continue enjoying this Virgo season. I love you, and I will see you guys next week for my birthday episode. Talk to you later. Ciao. Thanks for joining us this week on the Hello Well with Danielle show. Make sure to visit our website, hellowellwithdanielle.com, where you can subscribe to our show on iTunes, Spotify, and Amazon Music and never miss an episode. Also, you can follow us on social media at Hello Well with Danielle on Facebook and Instagram, and Hello Well Danny on Twitter. And if you like hella love the show and got some good nuggets out of it, know that I'm not too proud to ask for you to please leave a rating or review on iTunes so that we can continue to expand our reach and help other women of color. Again, thanks so much for listening, and I hope to see you next week. Ciao.